Welcome back, and as we promised, we are going to cover the latest efforts exerted by Egypt, Qatar, and the United States to reach the truce. And the truce is implemented on the ground for 2 days. It will last for 4 days, and there are positive signs saying that it may be extended. Well, to shed more light on this, and we are very much delighted and honored to have with us via phone His Excellency Ambassador Hussein Haridi, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Thank you very much for being with us, sir.
Good morning, ma'am. It's my pleasure.
Thank you. Before going into details, how do you see the efforts exerted by Egypt to reach the truce? Because since day one, since the 7th of October, Egypt's relentless efforts are continuing on the ground and with all parties, with all sides, with the active international partners to reach or to realize this dream, because the truce was a dream.
Well, of course, since day one of the Israeli aggression against Gaza, Egypt, with Qatar, and the American administration have exerted efforts to reach truth, the pause in the fighting in Gaza. And it took almost 5 weeks of very difficult negotiations in order to reach this deal. And as you put it, madam, this is yesterday was the second day of the truce, of the pause in the fighting, and today will be the third. And there is, it's likely that this pause in the fighting will be extended for 2 or 3 days. Egypt and Qatar, with the American administration, are trying to have an extended truce in Gaza. So hopefully their efforts would succeed, and ultimately we will reach a ceasefire agreement between Israel and the Palestinian resistance movements in the Gaza Strip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also worth mentioning, sir, that there were some delays in implementing the deal yesterday. So Egypt and Qatar also interfered. I mean that the two top mediators are following up the implementation of the truce on the ground to make sure that it's going to be a story of success and not to be halted by any ways. How do you see this, sir?
Well, we weren't surprised to see a delay, but it was expected. It was expected, and it should be expected that we should not rule out that there will be some other delays. But anyhow, I guess the parties to the agreement are well aware that the pause in the fighting and later on a ceasefire is in their interests, because any war comes to an end someday. Mm-hmm. And this war and others, and the previous 4 wars between Israel and the Palestinian resistance movements in Gaza had come to an end in 2009, 2012, 2014, 2021. They came to an end. And of course, the longest one was back in 2014, that lasted 51 days. Mm-hmm. So we should expect an end to this war, and this is a war. This is a war that won't have winners. Won't have winners. But
I don't know, sir, if we can call it war or it's really genocide. It's ethnic cleansing. I mean, when it is war, it's not easy to say that 15,000 people, 15,000 civilians, mostly women and children, were martyred. This is not war, or it cannot be put under this umbrella or under this concept. I don't know if you agree with me on that or no.
Well, madam, this is a war. It's when parties do resort to force in order to settle their differences by military means. And war has been defined as its politics by other means. So maybe of course, I have no problem with your qualification of what's going on in Gaza Strip. But when we say war, that it sums up the situation on the ground. Two parties or various parties have decided to resort to arms in order to settle their political differences. That's why I use the term war. And anyhow, I guess wars come to an end. And this war will come to an end someday. The sooner the better, of course. And but let's keep our fingers crossed, and let's hope that the efforts by the American administration, by Egypt, and by Qatar would really convince the warring parties that this war should end.
And, sir, we are continuing on the right path as President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi received yesterday the top diplomats of Portugal and Slovenia, and they also had tripartite talks with Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry, and they all agreed on the Egyptian vision regarding the full rejection of the displacement of the Palestinians, whether inside or outside their territories at the expense of neighboring countries. The sustainable flow of humanitarian aid is a must, and of course they welcomed the Egyptian strategic humanitarian and political role since the start of the crisis. How do you see the continuation of diplomatic efforts and political efforts, because the aim or the goal should be a permanent ceasefire, not only a 4 or 5 or even a week of pause of fighting?
Well, I guess the international community, after this pause in the fighting came, now is asking for a permanent ceasefire, because the continuation of this war is very costly, not only in terms of the Israelis and the Palestinian resistance movement, but in terms of international peace and security. Because as this war continues, the likelihood of other parties, other regional parties, coming into the fray becomes greater. And I guess the world and the United Nations, Egypt, the United States, Qatar are doing their best in order that does not happen, because if it happens, that would really have very negative and destabilizing consequences on international peace and security and on the world economy. So I guess the United Nations and the mediators, and by the mediators, of course, I'm referring to the United States, Egypt, and Qatar, they are doing their best to contain this war, not only to contain this war, but to bring it to an end by reaching a ceasefire agreement that would hold a sustainable...
And a settlement for the Palestinian cause, Mr. Ambassador, because now you can listen, or you can hear these words from the Western leaders. The term of two-state solution is being repeated from a Western leader to the other. And I think we have not heard this term repeated that much except recently.
Well, let's go step by step, madam, and let's be practical. Of course, we have been saying the two-state solution for the last 30 years, and look what happened in Gaza, and what's happening in the West Bank also. So let's be practical. Let's be practical, and let us concentrate our efforts now on reaching a permanent ceasefire, and then working out, and this is no less important, and working out the transitional arrangements in the Gaza Strip, madam.
Yeah.
And That's the way
I'm
I see things.
saying that, sir, because our top diplomat starts another important tour today as he head to Barcelona, Spain, to participate in an Islamic Mediterranean summit, and then he is going to go to New York to participate in a UN session on Gaza, and this is part of the mission of the Foreign Ministers Committee formed by, or was one of the results of the summit which took place in Riyadh, combining a number of top diplomats from the Arab and Islamic leaders to convey the message to the international community and to make sure that we are going all the time to stress to renew our stance regarding the Palestinian cause and the importance of reaching comprehensive peace in the Middle East via the two-state solution. How do you see these efforts and this tour in specific?
Well, as I said, madam, let's be practical.
Yeah.
And there is no, let's be practical. Let's concentrate on the most, on the most urgent and the most immediate priorities in the Middle East. And of course, there is no problem talking about the two-state solution, and it's the only solution to avoid the repetition of these wars between Israel and some Palestinian resistance movement. There is no problem saying this. But what I'm saying is that let's be practical. Let's concentrate on the immediate. And once we make sure that we have reached a ceasefire agreement, of course, we should start seriously and diligently working on implementing, not on talking, because we have been talking about the two-state solution for the last 30 years, from 1993, precisely September 13th, 1993, when Israel and the Palestinian Liberation Organization signed the Declaration of Principles, or what's called the Oslo Accords, in Washington. And for the last 30 years, we have been talking about the two-state solution, and here we are, here we are. So let's first of all, excuse me, let's concentrate on the most, on the immediate, on the urgent, and once we reach that goal, we can not only talk about the two-state solution, madam. We start implementing it seriously. And to tell you the truth, to sum up my answers to your questions, President Sisi last Friday said that we've been trying this peace process, aiming at the of implementing the two-state solution for the last 30 years, and we've gone nowhere. So we have to come up with new ideas. We have to think of a new process that really would deliver as quickly as possible, as soon as possible, this vision of an independent Palestinian state on the ground.
And to seize the opportunity, sir, that the public opinion in the West, I mean, in big countries all over the world, now the facts are revealed. The brutal image is now in front of all people, and it's very clear, obvious. You can find tens, not only tens, hundreds of thousands of protesters in all the Western capitals, in London, in Paris, in Berlin, you name it. And I think now, even with the release, for example, of the Palestinian prisoners, you would find minors and women. Why in the first place would the Israelis detain minors and women, and claiming that they are with peace and that they are respecting human rights? Now, how we can seize this opportunity to make sure that the world really know what's going on the ground, and not to be deceived anymore with the Israeli claims?
Well, we have to end the occupation, the Israeli occupation of the West Bank. We have to end the Israeli siege of the Gaza Strip, and we have to agree on transitional arrangements to provide the Palestinians in the West Bank and in the Gaza Strip with security, freedom of movement, and, of course, stability and economic prosperity. And that's what we should concentrate on right now on the road to the implementation of the creation of an independent Palestinian state, madam.
Yeah. And I'd like also, sir, to shed more light on the flow of aid and the continuous efforts by Egypt to guarantee the sustainable flow of aid, particularly in the days of truce, and also the will of Egypt to continue receiving the Palestinian injured people to be treated here in Egypt in our hospitals, whether in North Sinai or in other hospitals across the country. If you want to elaborate on that too.
Well, of course, this is the least we can do, madam, as far as we are concerned. Gaza is geographically on our borders, on our eastern borders, and what has been going on in Gaza since 2007, since Israel has laid siege to the Gaza Strip, has negatively impacted Egyptian national security. And some Egyptians have always called for the lifting of the siege because the siege, as I said, has presented a threat to our national security. And this has been, of course, reflected in the fact that there have been 5 wars with this one going on, 5 wars from 2008, 2009 till today between Israel and the national and the Palestinian resistance movements. And this is the least we can do, madam. This is the least we can do for the Palestinians.
Sir, also, I think Rafah and the crossing of Rafah did not witness this number of visits by world leaders, ministers, high-ranking international officials. I mean, Ursula von der Leyen, EU President, Karim Khan, the ICC executive manager or prosecutor, the many Prime Minister of Spain and Belgium, which took place only a few days ago. I'm not going to be able to count all of them. How do you see these visits, and how we can assure that the impacts of these visits can have their positive role in portraying the real image on the ground and to take into account what's really going on? Simply, it's in front of you. You are witnessing what's going on the ground with your own eyes. You are now a witness.
Well, of course, these visits by foreign dignitaries to the Rafah crossing do express the attachment of the international community to finding a solution, a permanent solution to the Israeli occupation in the Gaza, in the West Bank and in Gaza. And the foreign dignitaries have realized that this war does pose a threat to international peace and security. On the other hand, European leaders are, of course, they know that within their own countries there are growing voices calling for a ceasefire in the Gaza Strip, and for the introduction of aid and assistance to the people of Gaza. So they want to show their people that they are committed to a ceasefire and committed to a long-term solution for the Palestinian-Israeli conflict.
So one final question, sir, regarding the UN session on Gaza, which is going to take place on Tuesday. Do you have any expectations?
Well, let's wait and see, madam. Let's wait and see. I guess that I guess we should expect support, clear out support for the truth, and a call, and maybe a call for a permanent ceasefire. Although I'm not sure that the United States and other partners and allies of the United States would agree at this stage of the conflict to insert a reference to a ceasefire in Gaza. But as far as this point is concerned, let's wait and see.
Let's wait and see. Let's cross our fingers. Let's pray to God that we are not going to lose more innocent lives, sir. Well, Ambassador Hussein Haridi, a former Assistant Foreign Minister, thank you very much for your input, sir, and have a very good day. Right after the short break, we are going to return back with more, so stay tuned.